Morning.
No comment.
Apparently I talk too much. Morning from VRAM and Monavale, G Brothers, reporting live with quite an exceptional gentleman here. I'd like to give you a bit of an update. It's been wonderful actually following such an extraordinary athlete for a period of days. So we want to go and have a chat to him, and I know you want to chat to him too. Let's go over to Kent. So, mate, you've been riding alongside Rupert for the last 10 days.
Oops, yep, we're just going. Yeah.
10 days, yeah. It's really interesting watching the effort you've got to put in, and especially last night when we had a group of people riding. We had Ben Said, who is a Paralympian, basically, who was putting in some big watts just trying to keep up with Rupert. At this stage, you said to me yesterday you're actually fatiguing a bit as well, and you're only doing 180k a day compared to Root.
Yeah.
Is the struggle real?
100%. Yeah. I've done, what's he up to now? 2,4 something?
Just near 2,500 kilometres.
Yeah, so I've just clocked over 1,100, which is over what I'd sort of set myself. I'm only averaging about 23, 25, which might be similar to where his averages are. Sometimes my watts are 100, like they're not much. I don't have anything. So you just start to fatigue out.
So what's the difference do you feel between someone like Rube and someone like yourself? Because you're a fit lad.
Oh, he's trained for it. He's done a lot of work, from just off him. He's done, a couple of indie packs. He's done Revolve 24. He's got a great head for it, well coached, massive amount of miles, and smart. He's a hard nut. He really is, and I love the guy.
All right, so basically you've got everything except the last quality.
I've got nothing.
All right, so thank you, mate. So now we'll go over to the second athlete.
Not his bananas?
Yeah. The porridge is looking a bit worn out this morning, mate. So, mate, you had a bit of a bonus last night. We gave Root 5 hours sleep because he's at that clutch point in the race where if you get a little bit well rested, you can actually benefit from a longer block of sleep. And so this morning, Root woke up after a good 5 hours. He went through to midnight. We're ahead of schedule. He's had a couple of cheese and bagel muffins. This isn't actually show food, it's real. It's real porridge. So, mate, where are you at? What's going on?
Well, as well, I did have a chicken wrap before I had the eggs and muffins, and still got to try and fit it in the porridge somehow. But there's only so much you can get in your guts. Most of it's gone now too. Anyway, apart from that, it was good to get those 5 hours. I didn't sleep the whole 5 hours, but it's just to be on your back at least. And this end of the event, the fatigue is starting to kick in. I'm not going to lie about that. Even right now, I'm just getting a little bit sleepy again. It just comes from nowhere. You think you're fine, and then suddenly it comes in. You've got to push through it now. And but I know I'm not alone. I think everybody who's doing this is going through the same thing. So that motivates you. Also brings a little bit of spirit between everybody out there, even though we're countries apart, linked by a dot on an internet. You know that somewhere out there, the other riders are feeling the same thing, and that sort of, I like to think it brings you together in some sort of way.
Yeah, I mean, it is a clutch in the race right now because we've had Hiro Suzuki, who was a long way ahead. We had a chat with him yesterday, and he's sort of hit a wall and slowed down. Some of the other guys have also slowed down. Chris Hoppo looks like he's just blown. So basically, where we're at is at that really important stage in the race that Roop's training for the proper RAM 2021 by doing VRAM this year. Now, the really important thing is it's a luxury to get to this part of the race where you can test things and trial things, and it's not actually on the road in America. So where Roop's at right now with the level of fatigue and everything else, it's a really interesting place to be at, yeah?
Yeah, oh certainly, and that's, while it may, if someone was to see me, they may think, how could that be interesting at all? But it is interesting because you can experiment with things, you can experiment with your sleep patterns, find out what works, you can, and then with your food in a contained, safe environment. I'm not going to be hit by a car, I'm not going to fall asleep and swerve into a truck or anything like that, or even just crash into a grass paddock. So yeah, it's still hard. I mean, people who say, I don't know who said it, but if anyone was to say that virtual racing is not as hard as outdoor racing, I'd beg to differ. It's certainly different. It's very challenging in its own right.
Yeah,
and,
I think Hoppo's finding it quite easy though.
I think he's got a lot of experience though, he knows. He's got more experience than I do.
He does.
So I'm more experienced
We
than
were chatting last night and I said to Roop, because what we're doing is paramedic Troy, we're doing regular ECGs to check where Rupert's physiology's at. It's quite extraordinary. I said to Roop last night, at the end of the day, don't you feel that this is quite extraordinary that you're just feeling fresh after 10 days of doing this?
Yeah, look, that's true. I mean, I know I said that, people who saw me now may beg to differ, but when the day ended yesterday, I had 2 really hard days, back-to-back mountains. It was the first, one day 9,000 metres climbing. Yesterday, I don't know how many metres climbing, but it seemed just as hard. And yet somehow, towards the back end of the day, even though I hit some of those flatter stages again, it's still long days. And you still got to, you have a race strategy, you're still chasing a strategy, or trying to keep to schedule on a strategy, and that alone is mentally fatiguing, let alone actually riding it. So, and suddenly towards the back end of the day, I went into one of those blue patches, and where you feel like the wheels are just spinning, and it's amazing. And again, it vindicates the training program that Marco Bellows put me under, because there's this point of the event that I think Marco styles the program to come into effect. I'm not saying it's easy to get through the first week, but it's this end of it where programs, good programs, pay dividends. And while we've still got 3 and a bit days still to go, and I'm not jumping the gun about what dividends they're going to pay, certainly yesterday's ride was a case in point as to how in one day it can pay some reward, and I'll take that.
So you've covered quite a few Grand Tours and races through your career. You're at the end of the second week. How do you feel being on a Grand Tour, having to go into another week?
Oh look, even just as a journalist, I've covered enough Grand Tours to know and see how, you've seen riders who have been strong, after 2 weeks, and then bang, the third week is where, they can lose it just like that, and bang, a rider who's strong can come through the field and just be consistent through the field. And while those strong riders are tiring, they're not tiring as fast as the weaker riders. And if any one of those guys or women in a women's race seizes an opportunity, bang, they'll take it. They may not have the energy for many opportunities, but that's like life. You've got a bit of a crapshoot, and you've got to back yourself and go for it when that opportunity arises, or just look after yourself.
Have you changed your opinion or the way you'd approach Grand Tours now? Because effectively this is a Grand Tour for yourself. When you go back and do the tour next year, for example, has it changed your psyche or the lines of questions that you might put to the Pro Tour as well as the Cruise?
I think it may not change my line of questioning, but it may give me a broader or a deeper sense of what they're going through, to empathise with what they're going through, and to perhaps analysis that may convert into my analysis of how things unfold. I think I've had a pretty good grasp of what they go through as far as I could have as a journalist before, but certainly having now done VRAM and those revolves and 2 Indy packs, I think I've managed to garner some credentials to at least say I have a feel, but no way am I saying this. I'm a Grand Tour rider, but certainly as a 58-year-old journo, maybe I've enhanced my understanding and maybe it's a way of showing it's never too late to learn something, and it's never too late to learn it in a bizarre, extreme sort of way. Like, you know, we've heard from Matt Heyman. You know, he's been calling me several times in the last couple of weeks with, not just to say g'day, you know, he's been giving me advice of how he feels in the third week of the Grand Tour and what sort of signals to look for and things like that. You know, I've really appreciated that coming from someone like Matt Heyman, who, you know, not just a Paris-Roubaix winner, you know, he's a very experienced, intelligent guy whose role is helping a lot of other riders win races. He's suffered a lot in his time, and so he knows what it's like, and it's been very comforting to hear.
We're talking about credentials. We've got to do a bit of a shout out to the East Cycling Club that Roop's a very proud member of. Also, you're the club secretary, I believe.
Yeah, pretty bad secretary.
So thanks for the messages of encouragement last night, Lizzie, because I think you've been upgraded from club secretary. They're a bit worried that you're actually going to be leaving in the dust now because of the miles you've got in your legs. So Roop's promised me that he's going to give you guys at least a 2-week head start before he comes back. Also, I want to do a shout out to our dear friend Mike Tomalaris, who was meant to join us last night, feeling a bit unwell. So Tom, I hope you're doing well. And a little bit of housekeeping. We will be finishing 11 p.m. on Sunday evening Eastern Standard Time in Sydney. And unfortunately, due to the COVID restrictions, we're limited to 20 people. So if people could refrain from coming to the dealership, I know there's quite a few hundred of you interested. We're trying to follow the rules. We will be reaching out to a few hand-picked selected people that Roop would like to join us, but we will be coming live for the finish around the world on Cycling Central. So that's about it from here. If we don't stop now, Roop will never eat his delicious porridge. So it's bye from Kent. See you, mate. It's bye from Roop. And it's bye from me.